soul, okay? And he calls himself the social innovator. And he says, for him, the answer is always at the site of the problem. He thinks like a design thinker. He does not think like a government official. And his office is really quite wacky. He's got these crooked shelves, but these crooked shelves are because he's saying that, look, there are always two sides of a problem. I want to be the one in between that solves it, okay? And he's got all these post-it notes, which are actual notes from citizens saying, this is what I want, Mr. Mayor, help me. So he's got his, client in a way, his constituents, all their requests put up on the board. And then he's got this kitchen garden here because he wants to encourage people to get into urban gardening. But you can see his whole space is like a social innovator. For him, design is absolutely something that's part of his very being. So the other person who was similar in that way to him was Ralph Speth. He's the MD of Jaguar Land Rover. And he was just really, he gave me a design test. When I walked into the office, he said, oh, if you want to interview me, you have to tell me who designed this clock. And he pointed to the wall and he said, can you tell me? Luckily, it was George Nelson and I recognized it. But otherwise, he may not have let me continue with that interview. So he was really, the focus is on the products. It's not on numbers and volumes. It has to be a killer combination of design and engineering. And if we deliver a product, engineer it, then we can make good business. So you can really understand how this man has been able to turn around a company that was doing quite badly and is now basically, it's because of Jaguar Land Rover that Tata Motors is doing well. Otherwise, without them, they would be in a lot of trouble. So he's a very interesting person. Closer to home, Baba Kalyani, also somebody, with incredible understanding of design, incredible understanding of engineering. Obviously, they're building businesses more engineering-led than design, but still, he has understood the ecosystem of innovation. He understands what you need to train engineers, to build the capabilities. He said, I think there are 2,000 engineers in his companies. They have different sorts of training at all levels. So he really understands that, and he's built it because it's a very much, the product is deeply embedded into their strategy. So that's on the product. On the brand side, I've seen a lot of workplaces that are visually very nice. And here I really want to talk to the graphic designers who are here in the room, okay? Like, I think there are a lot of nicely, very pretty visuals. Like, Marico has this person, the whole wellness thing. There's this vServe Mobi. It's a small company that deals with mobile exchange data analytics. They've got this idea of a digital city. Myntra has this shopping kind of fashion display, or some nice graphics. But I think narrative today, when in a spatial medium, I think the visual aspect is not enough. It needs to be much more experiential. These are also what I would still call narrative offices. They tell you a story. This is the headquarters of DP Jindal. It looks like a contemporary boutique hotel, and the founders were trying to sort of say that, look, we've got this beautiful art collection and we're very cosmopolitan, and this is what our office is going to look like. Or this is Piyush Pandey. He's got this very nature-like office, comfortable, domestic, earthy of O&M. But I think really when you want an office where the work environment really reflects the brand and captures a brand, it has to be not just narrative, but very experiential. So Rajiv Mehta, he used to be the CEO of Puma. He actually has a slide from his office down there, okay? There's a rock climbing wall. They've got these great things like Mere Paas Puma Hai. And they've got just lovely, the spirit and the energy of this brand is reflected everywhere, and the employees are living the brand. Similarly, this is an office without any great graphics, but I would call it one of the best branded offices I would see, because it allows these are techies, Comly Media. They have it's like a global startup. They are a mobile ad exchange platform. And so they have this. They have these offices where you can write on the walls. They've got like about dozens of conference rooms for everyone to collaborate. It's very open. It's really very much driven to the seamless startup world is what it perpetuates. So I think that, when you think of taking your brand into a space, think of how that experience matters to them and not just how it looks. That's very important. Then there are a number of people who are using design to drive cultural change in their organizations. And these are very interesting companies for me because they're obviously thinking of their environments in a very strategic way. So one of them was Johnson & Johnson, which we'd all consider to be a pretty old-fashioned company. But when they moved into their new office, they really tried to make it much more agile. So for example, they have the new thing is, these phone booths where just two people can meet, or they have, as well as obviously, you have these conference rooms where other people can meet. But the idea is that they have these multiple work settings. They have a lot of informal collaboration happening. And really they're thinking about the investment they're making in design in a very strategic way. HUL is a beautiful space, which has like this street that you can walk along, which a lot of collaboration can take place there. Flexibility, this idea that work is not a place you can go to, work is an activity you can carry out everywhere. This was a very interesting office of Tata Chemicals, where the MD said at that time that, I don't want it to be very formal, and we're in the business of salt, and we're in the business of something very earthy, so I want something which is very earthy and rural inspired. And so he had these like little platforms everywhere where people could come and sit. They also had these, on every major workstation, you had a little place where you could put a picture of a god and personalize it. So make it a kind of more community-led feeling. This was Rajiv Kaul, who was the MD of CMS, and he said that I just don't want closed doors. I don't want people sending emails from one office to the other. I want people to go and speak to each other. So again, design as driving behavioral change among people and cultural change among employees. Shikha Sharma was the MD of Axis Bank. Extremely, the Axis banks typically just have so many hierarchies. So just trying to change the culture of that by giving everybody gave everybody the same chair, made no one person had a bigger space than the other. Yeah, the MD of Procter & Gamble, he doesn't have an office. He just sits on a workstation. Like everyone else, so very much more accessible. That's something I see happening. Same here with Myntra, Mukesh Bansal, he just sits out there with everyone. This is a growing trend. This was Nisa Godrej when they put up the space office. I know there's a lot of work happening between y'all and Godrej and Boyce, so maybe you've seen this. This is on the Godrej industry side. But I love this way she said space is a prototype of a future Godrej. So they're using design to reinvent themselves. They're using design, and if a customer is able to visualize themselves in their spaces in this creative way, then I'm sure they can be using design in other ways too. This is at Mindtree Orchard, and they have this lovely learning environment where they said that all the new recruits who come, we want them to be sitting in these spaces where they kind of get used to the idea of being in an office environment. So they have a little bit of like a campus feel, and then a classroom feel and a lab feel. So they've devised these kind of work environments for them. And environment is obviously something that people are thinking more about. So when it comes to sustainability, a lot of companies are doing interesting things. Of course, when you're putting up a new building, then people think of LEED and those kind of green building rating systems. What was very interesting to me was one retrofit, which people don't do very often, but you can do, which was at Cement House in Mumbai, where they actually pulled out the whole interiors of the building, but they left all the structures intact, and they managed to make it a green building. So what is the takeaway for me and for you from this? I think this is important. As a design thinker, what do you need to do? So first, as I said, be that T-shaped person, be that hybrid person who can, it's not that, explore the intersections, which is not to say that you just know a little bit of design, a little bit of business. You can put things together. And I think that's quite important. pivoting is important. Like, I think I moved from being a design entrepreneur, somebody in business, to being a writer and a columnist and a journalist. And I think that, the way careers are now, the way people are leaving these portfolio lives when we're all doing different things, you would have seen that in your faculty also. They might have been doing different things and now they're teaching or they're going to go back to their business. The ability to pivot will remain very important. And I think platforms finally, are often actually it's the platform rather than the content that is giving you the value. So you should think about which platforms you can be part of going forward, and these will increasingly become even more important, as I see. Now the fun stuff. Design thinking at play. What have I learned from design about after being a parent? I've got a four-year-old and a 7-year-old. And when I was your age, I don't think I ever thought about children. They didn't really enter my universe at all. But they might enter your universe at some point. So I thought I'll maybe share some insights. I love this quote from Tim Brown. Sorry, he's not the CEO of WPP, CEO of IDEO, which IDEO you all know. So he was giving this example when he was 9-10 years old. He said that Lego launched me on my career as a design thinker. So what happened was that at that time when he was in the UK, there was a big coal mining crisis, and so he couldn't. There was no lights actually in the house, and Lego has these little. Some of their bricks have lights on them. So he built a torch based just on those lights, putting it together, and his mother used to cook based on that. So I thought that was just a lovely line. And then I came home one day and I saw this on the table. And this is a sweet shop that my older son made. Note that his prototyping is all about consumption rather than helping me. But anyway, we'll go beyond that. But what he did was, this is the chocolate, this is the strawberry tart, this is the blueberry tart, this is some other grape tart, this is the cupcake, these are the ice creams. So the point is, they're pretty basic building, but he worked out a design language. He worked out a design sort of symmetry, basic ideas, labeling, and he set up this whole shop. So I think that, you are going to go into an environment where you're going to be working all the time. You've got deadlines, you've got clients, you've got customers, you've got deliverables, and also to prototype and to make things with your hand, because I think that is going to be still something that will give you more satisfaction, and it will just remain with you for longer. I mean, we are living in a world where digital media is so fleeting, but when you make something with your hand and keep it, there's a different sense of permanence with it. So, for example, this was all out of recycled materials that, my younger son and I, we tried making this as a spaceship. We haven't painted it yet. But really, the fun of doing this, even every so often. And come back to thinking again, like, this little piece again was done by my 4-year-old, and all I did was, these were colored ice cream sticks, and he just took them on his own, and he said, I'll make a picture from them, and he figured out 1 orange, 2 lemons, balloons are blue, carts are red, grapes are purple. I think I'm showing this all to the director so that he'll give them admission, 20 years from now when they apply for school. So this is their advanced portfolio. Anyway, all I'm trying to say is that, if kids that are that young can think about this stuff, I think you as designers have to focus on that thinking. And the craft you already know, the craft you will pick up from the environment around you. I know you've made a lot of movies, so I'm not sure. This is something we made. I made this with my older son. And the reason I'm sharing this today is just that I think 2 things. First is that even without going to MIT ID, you can make a short film. That's one. Second, I want to say that the power of storytelling, okay? Do not forget that when whatever role you are in, people like stories. Everything you say sounds better if it has a story attached to it. So, the storytelling is very important. I think one of the reasons I also wanted to share that was you are very fortunate to be in a profession that you actually like doing, in the sense that people can get bored of Excel after a while, or they get very tired of engineering, but you are in a creative position, a creative profession that challenges you to, so just focus on the process and the outcome will happen. And I think that's, as at any graduation, people will say the world is in your hands, but in this case, it truly is in your hands. So I wish you all the very best, and may God be with you.
What was your reference to that word called platform?
When I say platform, it could mean either the name of the company or whoever you're working for, but also, let's say, when in a social media context, the kind of platforms of YouTube, Facebook, etc. I think that today's day and age is these things are very important parts of anybody's identity, and I think people are not looking anymore to just saying that you work for some company or you have some designation. I think people are looking for these kind of platforms, which could be social media, it could be awards, it could be companies. They all are ways to differentiate what you're saying. So, for example, if you said you had produced a video and it got 1 million hits on YouTube, automatically that's a platform. It doesn't matter who produced it, who funded it, but that gives you a certain amount of credibility. So I think that many of these things today matter. Or if you write a book and it gets published and it wins a prize, then those become platforms. So, I think that these platforms sometimes, unfortunately, become even more important than the content. So I think that it's not this case that you can be only driven by these platforms, but they are very important. Especially for, I think, people in the design world who are not necessarily wedded to one company. As a designer, not everybody ends up working for one company for 20, 30 years. People do their own thing. They work on projects. They do all sorts of different things together. So that's why these platforms are important to give credibility.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, you said that they didn't talk about design in Harvard. So what's the scenario today? Are they teaching their grads to manage design?
No, they're not. They're teaching innovation in a more kind of technical way, a slightly more engineering-oriented kind of way. They don't really have too much of design faculty, not the way that Stanford and some of the other schools are doing it.
Okay. So you think that's sufficient? The way the Harvard handles innovation without design is okay?
No, I don't think it's okay.
Okay, fine. So design is important. Yeah.
I think it is important, yeah. I think design thinking is important, but I think it's also very important when along with design thinking is to be that T-shaped person. Like, you can't just be a design thinker without some domain expertise. I think that's really important. Yeah.
Hello. Ma'am, you said that workspaces today are being optimized to, the overall goal and values of the, say, company or whatever they are for. But we should remember that a company is not an individual. There are many, many individuals within that. So how to design a workspace that works for the goal, of course, of the company, the brand values and all of that, at the same time takes care of individuals who have different aspirations as compared to the company which has one.
I think a workplace would take care of many different needs. It's not just one. The reason I highlighted one of these was because primarily they fall into that category.